Welcome to Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and today is part one of a two-series episode about remorse. What I'm going to do in this episode is share with you a conversation that I had with a few of the guys in here about remorse and what it means and how I see it today as far as that goes, right? So let me get started with that, okay? I was talking to a few guys, about three or four. These are older guys. Everybody was in their 40s and 50s, violent offenders, except for one. This younger guy, I guess he was in his 20s, maybe mid to late 20s. And everybody was violent offenders. And I was sharing with them my views about remorse and why I thought and think that having remorse is important and that it shouldn't be something that you shy away from expressing. But in that conversation, the majority of the people, well, in fact, all of them were saying that they thought remorse was a show of weakness. And I just totally didn't agree with that. I believe that remorse is a show of strength. It's a connection and a validation and an acknowledgement of the pain that you caused and the regret that you may have for the crimes that you may have committed. But I do understand what they were saying. They were trying to make me understand that if you show remorse, that can be used against you as a sign of guilt. And my point to them was simply this. I understand that, when you're on trial for maybe your life or a lot of years or something like that, I understand trying to mitigate the situation and get the least amount of time possible. I understand that. But it's a big difference in being held accountable, which is what the trial and all of that is all about, and showing remorse, which is an acknowledgement of the pain that you caused your victims and the regret that you may have for it. It's a big difference. It's a big difference in the two. So, but they didn't really want to see it that way. They merged them together with like, if you show remorse, they'll use it against you. If you don't show remorse, they'll use it against you. So they figured it was a sign of weakness, so they would just sit there, as if nothing had happened. A lot of the guys even told me that their lawyer told them to don't show any emotion, which, I don't know if that's true or not, but I think a lot of guys would tell you the same thing. I was just more on the aspect of remorse is an issue that a lot of people in here have a hard time dealing with. And let me say this too. It was about 5 guys that I was talking to, and I think 3 of them were very, very heavy into the word, right? And even they thought that showing remorse was not a good thing to do. And their understanding and explanation for that was, if I have remorse for what I did, then I'm not acknowledging, what God has done to me and how I'm in a better place today. And I flat out totally disagree with that, because I believe that you can acknowledge the pain that you caused in the crime that you committed, and at the same time appreciate what God has done for you in your life and brought you to the point that you're at. You know what I'm saying? It's not a either or. It's not a all or nothing when it comes to that. Saying that you don't have any regrets about how you became this person that reveres the Most High and all of these things, and thinking that if you have regret, then that you're not being appreciative to God. And I just totally disagree with that. And I've heard a lot of people say that, I don't have regrets, because if I regret it, the path that I took to get to this point, then, I wouldn't be appreciating God. That's absolutely, in my opinion, a false narrative, not true. And it's somebody that lacks understanding of, what it means to go through, what you've been through. You appreciate God on the other end of it for being there through the whole process. But at the same time, you can acknowledge the pain that you caused, in the destruction that you caused to your victims. You know what I mean? But let me get specific about this part of the conversation that really intrigued me. It was this young guy that I was saying that was in the conversation, and I wasn't really focused on the 4 older guys more so than I was on the younger dude, because when you get a certain age, you're set in your ways, and that's just what it is, right? But I wanted to get at the younger guy, because he was agreeing with what they were saying, and I just wanted him to really have a full understanding of what I was saying before he, formed this worldview around not expressing remorse and how it was weak and wrong to do, right? So I asked him, later on, what did he really think about that conversation that we were having about remorse? And he told me that he agreed with those other old heads that, it was weak and it's not something that you should have done. And I asked him, I said, so when you went to trial, you're telling me that you didn't have any remorse for what you did? He said, I did, but I didn't want to show it. I said, okay, so you did understand that you had caused these people pain, but you didn't want them to see it because you thought that would be used against you. And he was like, yeah. I said, so that was an acknowledgement. I get you not making a public display of your remorse. I get that. You know what I'm saying? Because you felt that it would be detrimental to your case. I get that, right? But you did acknowledge. And he was like, yeah. I said, well, don't say that. I said, I would ask you not to say that showing remorse is weak. It's a big difference in trying to get the lowest amount of time as you can versus, understanding what you did and the pain that you caused and regretting it. You know what I mean? And as we continued to talk, I saw that he started to come around, but he was still a little confused. And what I started to see on his face was a lot of hurt and pain. And that helped me to understand what I needed to say to him to get him to understand fully how important remorse was and is in the process of healing. And that's what I wanted to get across to him. And that's the point that I was trying to make to him. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this particular segment of this series, and I'm going to talk about how remorse is vital to the process of healing in part 2. So y'all check that out. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe, and I would say peace.